Man, it's quite the storm out there. I saw a shark whipped up in a tornado like a cow in The Wizard of Oz. Actually, that's got me thinking, why are we so scared of sharks? Why do we make movies like Jaws and Sharknado? And how does that fear translate to real sharks and their effects in the real world? After all, if sharks are endangered, surely our fear of them had some influence on that. Animals don't just become endangered all on their own. And so, I think to start, we have to first understand why sharks are even endangered in the first place. Almost one third of all shark and ray species, stingrays are closely related to sharks, by the way, they both experience very similar extinction threats and mostly from the same sources. Almost one third of all shark and ray species are endangered or vulnerable to extinction in some way, shape, or form. Along with that, shark populations have been decreasing in the past few decades. To make things even worse, the spread that they've been decreasing at is actually getting faster. Even though there's international trading regulations against shark and ray species, they're still being caught and killed. Regulations can only do so much. There's rules against bringing outside candy into the movie theater, but plenty of people still do it anyways. Even if catching sharks is illegal, people still do what they're willing to do. So why do we fear sharks, and why do we want to hurt them to begin with, even if we're not supposed to? Sharks aren't very cute and cuddly animals, at least not to a normal person. I'm not a normal person. Sharks have expressionless faces, beady black eyes, and big gaping mouths full of sharp teeth. They don't use body language we typically see in other animals. They don't wag their tails when they're happy, and they don't hiss when they're mad. As such, it's hard for us to understand what they're trying to tell us, if they're trying to tell us anything at all. Humans don't like it when they can't predict something. We scream when cockroaches suddenly jump at us, and because we didn't see it coming. We flail our arms around when we accidentally walk into invisible spider web, because we didn't see it coming. During human and shark interactions, the human almost always doesn't see the shark coming. Sharks come up from the deep blue almost out of nowhere. They appear like a magician pulling a shark out of a big hat. Humans' fear of the dark, and more specifically, what unseen things lurk in the dark, often lead us to freaking the hell out when we're jump scared. You also add in the unattractive features of a shark. That jump scare seems a lot scarier. You have to remember that humans are prey animals, specifically land-based prey animals. We kind of suck at swimming, especially when compared to a skilled swimmer such as a shark. We also have horrible underwater vision, so even if we were expecting a shark to be there, it would be hard to see coming. These two factors play a really big role in why we're so scared of sharks. Our lizard brain in the back of our head is scared of things we can't see coming. And our intelligent, scholarly brain is scared of things that can outwit us. Even if sharks don't attack humans, we would probably fear them as is, because of their faces. Unfortunately, they do attack humans, which just makes our fear of them even more pungent. But I have good news. Shark attacks aren't quite as straightforward as you think. Yes, it appears that sharks aren't actually after humans. I'm sure it will come to no surprise to you to hear this, but humans aren't a species of fish or a species of seal. Sharks don't want to eat humans. We've barely got any meat on us, and we normally come with a big side of plastic. Ugh. So, how come they do? Shark attacks are few and far between, but they do still happen. The global annual average for shark attacks sits at about 70, with about 10 fatalities every year. Some attacks are more likely to happen in certain places than others, like around areas where there's a lot of surfers and swimmers. The amount of attacks is also tied to, obviously, the amount of sharks in the waters. Areas with healthy shark populations often have higher shark attack numbers. Interestingly, the places with healthy shark populations also coincide with successful conservation projects, but not conservation directly aimed at sharks. The Cape Cod region is a very successful seal conservation program. Since 1972, after the Marine Mammal Act was passed, the local seal populations have been booming. However, that boom also caused a boom in local shark populations, and, unfortunately, a boom in shark attacks. Sharks eat seals, along with sea lions and walruses. They make up a family of animals called pinnipeds, which are sharks' primary diet. While this specific seal is a bad example, as he's not exactly teen Vogue cover material, some pinnipeds look eerily like humans on surfboards from under the water and a shark's eye view. While I love sharks for everything they do for us, I do have to admit they're not very intelligent animals. Sharks also, surprisingly, do not have hands. When a shark can't fully identify what something is by looks alone, the next thing they do is try to identify it by touch. But sharks don't have hands. Ugh. That's not a seal. Ugh. Sharks don't just use two senses, sight and touch, to identify things. They also have extra senses that we don't have. Sharks have an elaborate system of what's essentially electric whiskers covering their entire body. They can sense movement along with heart rates just by being nearby the fish. While you would think this would aid sharks in identifying a pinniped before they go up and bite it, research shows that the movement and electrical output of a pinniped and a human swimmer are actually extremely similar. Well, there's also the sense of smell, something most sharks are fairly good at. And yes, you can smell underwater if you can breathe underwater. When three of your senses are saying, that's a seal, and only the smell is wrong, you're more likely to think that's just a weird smelling seal. If you see what looks like a pinniped, moves like a pinniped, and has a similar electrical sign as a pinniped, then there's only one option left to identify if it is or isn't a pinniped. You have to swim up there and take a bite. Or dangerous, it's important to remember that they're not intentional. Sharks have long been perceived as bloodthirsty, soulless killers, and while they are quite stupid, they certainly aren't evil. The fact of the matter is, they just confuse humans for seals. They see us from the underside and they think that we're a seal swimming in the water, and, well, they can't really tell us apart, and so they go up for the bite, and by the time that they do, they realize that we're not a seal. Sharks play a major role in the Earth's ecosystem. As apex predators, they help keep the number of herbivores down. Without them, herbivores would run rampant and eat as many plants as they like. And since plants make oxygen, we kind of need those not to be eaten. Studies on human response to shark attacks have shown that people who believe sharks deserve to be killed are the same people who believe that shark attacks are intentional. And the same people who think sharks deserve to be killed are more likely to act out against sharks versus people who understand that sharks aren't intentionally attacking people. Most existing shark conservation policies dictate the sale of shark meat. This helps stop sharks from being caught directly, but as I previously mentioned, this only works if people follow that rule. The vast majority of shark deaths aren't actually from being caught for sale for the purpose of catching a shark. Unlike lions and elephants, people aren't going into the ocean with the goal of, I'm going to catch a shark today. No, unfortunately, most shark catches are from bycatch. Bycatch is when a fish is accidentally caught during the fishing process of a different fish. Shark bycatch is especially common with the trawling method of fishing. This is when a large net, sometimes miles long, is dragged across the seafloor by a boat. The aim of the net is to catch a specific type of fish, like cod, flounder, clams, and crabs. Unfortunately, a giant net isn't very picky with whatever gets stuck inside of it. You may have heard that sharks need to keep swimming 24/7 or else they die, and that's actually true. Due to the way their gills are designed, they require water to flow through them at all times, or else the shark suffocates. When a shark is caught in a large trawling net, they're no longer able to get the proper water flow over their gills, and this leads to them dying right there in the net. When the net's pulled up, the fishermen will find several dead sharks in there. Since these sharks can't be sold, because it's illegal, they just drop the sharks back into the ocean, meaning that their deaths are effectively in vain. Bycatch happens to thousands of other species of fish, so why are sharks especially affected by it? Well, sharks don't reproduce very often, and when they do, it takes months for a pregnancy to finish, and at the end, there's only a handful of baby sharks. A different animal, like a garden grub beetle, is rarely affected by the thousands of grubs killed every month by pesticide. Beetles reproduce like crazy, and they make hundreds of thousands of babies per batch. Even though they're a major agricultural pest, are killed by pesticide use, they're nowhere near endangered. Meanwhile, someone like a shark, who makes very little and few babies, is going to be greatly impacted by those said very few babies being killed. And so, how are we supposed to stop shark extinction rates if sharks aren't even intentionally being killed? There's already regulation in place to protect sharks, yet sharks are still dying. The problem is that the regulations are in the wrong place. Poaching isn't the main cause of death for sharks, bycatch is. So why aren't there regulations against bycatch? Well, because bottom trawling is one of the most profitable fisheries out there. It's a major moneymaker. Most people don't know anything about trawling and its impact on the ocean. And at the same time, most people think sharks deserve to die because they're evil and scary looking and they bite people. As such, there's not going to be much public outcry for shark deaths as there would be for a beloved animal being threatened with extinction, like the giant panda or the axolotl. Because of this, there's two big things we have to do to stop sharks from going extinct. One, sharks need a new PR team, ASAP. If everyone's terrified of you, no one's going to be on your side. We need people to understand that sharks aren't violent, aren't evil, and they certainly aren't optional. We need them to stay alive because they help keep our oceans alive, and we need our oceans to be alive for us to be alive. Two, people need to know exactly what's killing sharks. We have rules against shark poaching, but shark poaching isn't the main problem here. The public needs to be educated on what bottom trawling is, why it's bad, and how they can stop it. Bottom trawling doesn't just affect sharks either. It's the case for hundreds of other species endangerment too. If we can get it properly regulated and under control, then hopefully we could save even more marine species and help recover the ocean even faster. Conservation to protect sharks is possible. We just need people to get on the shark's side. Otherwise, sharks will continue to decline in population without most people knowing or caring. And when sharks are gone, we'll be gone.